The next thing I want to talk about is mercantilism. There's a very basic definition of mercantilism. The purpose of a colony is to benefit the mother country. Now, the British, as we look, the Spanish and the French, they were already using mercantile policies from the onset. That's how they used their colonies. Notice with the British, if you look back at the earlier videos and our earlier notes, the British weren't using the colonies in that sense. That was not the reasons why they were getting established. But in this, right around the 1650s, we start to see the British turn to do this. The series of wars had led Britain to have some economic issues, and they wanted to benefit from this. So after England's Civil War, Britain started to implement some mercantilist policies. These were called the Navigations Acts. There was a series of these from 1650 to 1673. And the purpose of them was so that Britain could prosper. And that's what's going to happen. Shipbuilding's going to prosper. England's going to gain a tobacco monopoly in Europe. The colonies, they were able to protect their colonies from the French and the Spanish. And so these are all some positive things from the standpoint of Britain as well as the British colonies of the mercantile system. But there were some negatives too. The manufacturing was in England, not in the colonies. And so the development of manufacturing was completely slowed by these policies. There was no need for the colonies to have manufacturing because it was being made in England. Another thing that was negative is that the farmers struggled. Because the British had a monopoly, the British tobacco companies had a monopoly in Europe, they were able to really keep the prices low, and that allowed them to have that monopoly. But on the other side of that, the small farmers in the Chesapeake region really struggled because of those low prices, as we talked about, as we mentioned with Bacon's Rebellion, how the farmers in the Chesapeake region the small farmers were really struggling. The large plantation owners and the companies were doing better, but the small farmers struggled because of low prices of their crops. And on top of that, the colonists had to pay pretty high prices for British manufactured goods. So those are some things there that were negative. Another thing that's negative, though, is that this put a strain on relations. Not a big strain. The British were really lax in enforcement. They didn't really enforce it. But there were some of the colonists were not happy about these regulations, especially in New England. And so we start to see an increase of smuggling of goods coming from the Spanish and the French. We start to see a smuggling and a little bit of colonial resistance, as they don't like having these rules put on them by London. So that's something we see, even though the enforcements were lax. And it's not a big deal yet. We're not even thinking anything revolutionary yet. All the colonists see themselves as British for the most part. And so we're not going any revolutionary. We're just starting to plant some of the seeds that Britain would have that do eventually lead to revolution, the economic aspect at least. Some of the things that the British would do to try to have control of the colonies, the Navigation Acts are a part of it, even though they were laxly enforced. There's other ways, political ways as well. James II tried to limit the power that some of these New England colonies had. In 1685, he establishes the Dominion of New England, basically putting the New England colonies as one colony, and that's why it's called Dominion. And they put it into a larger unit. He got rid of representative assemblies and was really trying to keep a thumb on them. This did not last, though, because in 1688, England had the Glorious Revolution and James II was out. And so the Dominion of New England did not continue. But again, there's another little seed. There's another little seed, a little shot across the bow of New England. Again, nothing revolutionary yet, but those are some of the things that we see there.